have a number of friends that can remember times from before they were born. One says he can remember his death very, very well. He was on a ship and it was on fire. He said, World War II. I wonder if a lot of us flower children aren't reborn soldiers. But then I don't really believe in reincarnation. Yet I also have waves of memories that do not seem to be my own. And there's so many books, many lives, many masters, Journey of Souls, Education of Over Soul 7, 1,000 plus on reincarnation. And then you can go to ancient texts, the Vedic material. You can go to Rosicrucianists in our own sense of today. There's something that separates us. And I don't believe in reincarnation, and you'll see where I end up. But I don't think you have to believe in something in order to address it and to try and understand the experience. And my friends, I think the experience is real. Whatever's happening, we seem to be experiencing something from beyond the veil. So that's what we're going to talk to do. What is this veil? What's the bleeding over? How do we explain these experiences? And I've talked about the two different ways that the human family has divided up our understanding of what's called afterlife. One is reincarnation, and the other is heaven and hell. And I probably have a better sensibility towards reincarnation, but not in the way most people think. So let's look at the different ways that consciousness has looked at this experience that we call reincarnation. The first, of course, is that the self is born and it gets reborn over and over. This is where most people's understanding is. It's a Hindu understanding. It comes from the Vedas and the Upanishads and an understanding of the self and this metaphysic behind it all. The second one is Buddhism. Now, Buddhism is interesting because there's no self, yet there's reincarnation. And the way they talk about it is through these skandhas, these different aspects of who we are. And the aspects they incur debt and resolve. And when you die, the skandhas undo and go and find other skandhas that they can work out their stuff with and creating another alleged self. So that's Buddhism's understanding. And then an understanding that I really like comes from the Oversoul, Education of Oversoul 7. And it's basically that there is an Oversoul that is sharing all at once all our different lives. So in my future life, when I screw up, I experience in this life perhaps some discord. All of them are trying to resolve through this Oversoul, and they're all happening simultaneously. And the fourth is one that seems to me the most logical, and that's what I call the quantum understanding, that all these times exist simultaneously. And what happens is, if I walk into a room and there's a guitar and it's tuned and I start singing the key, the note E, the two E strings on that guitar will start vibrating. That's called a sympathetic vibration. It seems to me that what we're doing when we experience other lives is we are creating a sympathetic vibration that allows a bleed over through the veil that separates the different space-time references. Now, I don't know. I'll be honest, because I have my own experiences. Am I creating these, generating them somewhere, like waking dreams? Or, and I'll be honest, I've never seen a past life where I'm a king or an emperor or anything. Mostly I'm a slave or a mule, or something like that. All my memories have basically been dust and bones memories, which is basically that life was hard and that we were all trying to make a go of it because it's what we were born into. And that seems to me an overriding theme in many of my experiences. However, I don't see that I had a past life. I see that there's a sympathetic vibration that is allowed to pass through this veil that separates the time references. Now, the veil, is it real? I don't know. But I do have a deep sense that consciousness is one interconnected whole, and that space-time is a tricky little sucker, and that consciousness has to at least be in time to experience itself. There has to be some time reference. So I just laid out a whole lot. Mary Ann is not with us today. She's down San Diego way. We were hoping we could beam her in, but she's in a car somewhere, so we'll just wish her the best. Bob, Dr. Bob Hayes is with us, and us, I guess I have a convening committee in here, so I'll refer to me as us. Bob, what are your first thoughts on what I just kind of laid out as some models of reincarnation?
Yeah, I'm familiar with all of the models that you've just described. In my own study of consciousness, I've seen all of these expressed. I've seen other types of altered states of consciousness that have been widely experienced by a lot of different people and have been observed in controlled type conditions, such as channeling. We've talked about that in an earlier episode. We've talked about a lot of different things that people experience, various types of spiritual healing, for example, where the healer is able to somehow bring some sort of a force to bear on the patient. And all of these are different facets of consciousness, different ways that people have experienced consciousness over the years. And in my own mind, when you use the term veil, what that brings to my mind is the separation of the conscious mind from the unconscious mind, or you might even call it the supraconscious mind, that mind that we share with the universe. And we've talked about not being able to perceive certain things because of our own experiences and biases and so forth. And what we begin to see is that all of these different expressions of consciousness, whether it's someone remembering a past life or someone channeling some sort of spiritual being, or someone experiencing another person's thoughts, when you're with someone and he or she says something that you were just about to say. And all of these different ways that bubble through to our conscious minds from the unconscious, I think that it's the veil that we don't necessarily create it ourselves, but it's unique to ourselves. And that veil, that semi-permeability that we've talked about in a lot of various contexts, allows certain perceptions to come through. And they're different because every one of us is different. And we can't say that one is true and the others are false, because whatever each individual experiences is his or her own unique semi-permeability to this larger universe that's out there trying to communicate.
Yeah.
And all of these different ways of describing it are equally valid from the individual's perspective. And it's when we begin to share those and see the intricacies, the different facets of being, that we begin to see that it's broader than what we individually experience.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Our individual experiences are just a starting point. The whole key is to develop a vibration that will allow the healthy pieces to come in and keeps the unhealthy pieces out. Now, here's my understanding, my theory, okay, of Buddha. They say that Buddha, before he died, experienced hundreds of thousands of his own incarnations. What I see him getting to is the final vibration, which is a vibration that is what Om is supposed to be about. It's what the Moody Blues, when they talked about In Search of the Lost Chord, is this vibration that lets the whole universe in and allows you to see. But this is what I think Buddha realized. He was every blade of grass that has ever been. He was every raindrop that fell from the sky. He is every worm that crawled from the earth. You realize when you hit that vibration that all of it is not an incarnation of you, but you are an incarnation of all of it. And you're just given a cosmic address. That's why In Search of the Lost Chord, to me, is one of the best album covers. And if you haven't seen it, look it up. It really is about where Alpha and Omega synapse, and that place where the final vibration is available to all of us. And I don't think we get it and we hang there. I think we get it and we die, or we oscillate in and out of it, and we share it with other people around us as part of our journey. So, Bob, you bring in an aspect of this, and that's the collective unconscious. The veil between the conscious and the unconscious, and then there's a deeper veil between one's own personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. And that, is, to me, is where those vibrations that have universal and the greatest accord seem to be available. And it's not something our linear intellect can enter into, because time references break down. And this is what I think is happening on the other side of the veil in those experiences that we call reincarnation.
Yeah, that makes sense. But again, it's how we interpret those experiences. And some of us are going to interpret it's an energy flow that then creates thoughts within ourselves, and those thoughts are going to interpret that energy in a certain way. And one of us may interpret it as, oh, I'm experiencing a past life. And another one may experience it, an ancient seer is communicating through me. I'm able to experience that life. But when we enter the collective unconscious, if you want to label it that, that's where time and space don't exist. So everything is there. And again, we can only interpret it certain ways because we exist in time and space in our conscious mind. And so that interpretation, that semi-permeability of our veils, our individual veils, is allowing a certain perception to come through, and we're able to label it as such. And the more we are able to allow those kind of energy flows, the greater the variety of experiences, and the interrelationships of those experiences become more clear to us. And that's where I think, the journey that we're on is taking those experiences in a linear way, because we're living a linear life, and seeing how they relate to one another and how they play off of one another, and how they all point to this timelessness, spacelessness that is the root of all of the source of the energy that we're interpreting.
And we can't, the whole thing is we can't think about what that is. timelessness and spacelessness, because our whole existence is predicated on there being time. Matter of fact, consciousness couldn't, and this is part of the metaphysic of complexification, differentiation, and semi-permeability. Consciousness couldn't do it is doing right now if it didn't have a trajectory in time. And that's an interesting thing to consider as well. And I think that the human being is an embodiment. I think there is a root history of life itself that exists in our DNA. And that's a conclusion that has very little evidence, but it's still my conclusion. And I don't like to say belief, because I really try to give up beliefs. It's like with reincarnation and afterlife. Again, let's go back to my root understanding is, at the very most, what we can say unequivocally is that the human beings really have built in a penchant for justice, because both of those models reek of things somehow redeeming and, reconciling oneself. So I think that we can say that that's true. However, the veil that separates one space-time from another, and, I can't remember the TV show, but it was on PBS, about an 11-year-old boy who kept having all these memories from the past, and they found the guy whose memories he was having, and they found some inconsistencies, and the 11-year-old said, no, the record's wrong, I'm right. And they went and dug deeper and found out that in every instance, this 11-year-old was correct about who he claimed to be a reincarnation of.
Right.
I don't know. I'm reading Many Lives, Many Masters now. My heart doctor turned me on to it. And it's about a psychiatrist who's just, doing his practice, and somebody comes and their trauma is created by previous lives. And it's like, say what? What
was
is
he the guy?
Go ahead, Bob.
I can't remember his name, but he was at the University of Virginia, I believe.
Yeah, Weiss, I think his name is.
Yeah, did his studies there, and found many, many cases like that one you're just describing.
Well, and the experience is real. And what I'm trying to do is put it within a historical context of how we've finer nuanced our understanding of what we call this experience, reincarnation, to a quantum understanding, and realizing that we each have a vibration that is sympathetic with other vibrations throughout the space-time thing, and maybe even interdimensional. And this is where quantum gets in, because we get into quantum tunneling. Are we actually experiencing lives not from this universe, but from another universe? We don't know. Again, what we can do, though, is we can look at the veil. We can look at the thinness of it and how things seem to get through it and how things don't. And Bob, you touched on this earlier, what it means, what those things mean to us. Not so much, because I don't think we can solve the mystery of it, but we can definitely discern the meanings.
I think I agree. We can never understand the fullness of the mystery, and maybe my favorite metaphor out of Kabbalah is the image of Kether as the profile of the king. We can see the profile that's facing us, but we can never see the profile that's away from us. And that is indicative of what we can explain, what we can understand, we can deal with, but that mysterious hidden side is never going to be available to us, because that's just the way things are set up. But I also wanted to say that our collective consciousness has changed so much especially over the last century, but even the last half of the last century, with things like the study of quantum mechanics, with Einstein's theory of relativity. All of these things have expanded our ability to create metaphors to explain the universe around us. And those metaphors are helping us open the veil in ways that never were available before.
And
so we're now able to see. Go ahead.
I was just going to comment, and revealing the mystery of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of the great physicists that created these theories of quantum mechanics and so forth, the deeper they got into it, the more mysterious it became to them. And many of them have talked about the universe not like a machine, but like a giant thought. And all of these different ways that they were attempting to explain things as they got deeper and deeper into the intricacies of the subatomic world and so forth. And likewise, as we've looked further out into the universe, we're now able to see things that occurred 1 billion years ago. Now, our little idea of reincarnating from the 17th century or something, that's still a drop in the bucket when you look at the universe. The whole history of our planet is just a small piece of the history of the universe. Yeah, well, so that mystery is so big.
But the bigness of the mystery is there in the smallest idea. And that's why I think we're realizing, so many people say, they look at the galaxy and point to a little point and go, we're going around this star here and we're so insignificant. Yeah. And I go, you don't get it. We can hold this whole thing in our head. Size does not matter. Size is not the issue. And if it was, what we could say is we are an expression of the very consciousness that gave rise to the universe itself. And probably it's just one universe among a foam. It's one bubble on the foam of a beer that's just, there's so many of them. And so we don't know. These are, of course, best guesses based on what we do know. However, what we keep seeing over and over is that there is this veil, something that separates, that consciousness, and we've talked about this last podcast on waking up is we cut ourselves off almost at the end of that one, that, we're talking about what is it that's pushing the human family and consciousness? What is it that creates these different boundaries? And time is a boundary. Gravity is a boundary. There are different things that allow life to happen and that we can say are healthy. If you read sci-fi, they're in spacesuits until they say, is the air breathable? And we're learning. And Bob, you laid out some of this, the finer nuances of our journey. And I think that we are, I like the whole idea of In Search of the Lost Chord, because there is this ultimate vibration that allows one to receive beyond the veil. And I think what one receives when one really gets it is nothing less than bliss. We're talking about Vishnu on the back of an anaconda in the sea of bliss. And that there is a point where we can experience the place where being, life, and consciousness are one, and participate in the unfolding of the reality of that. And I think reincarnation, the reason I brought that up is because it gives us a really good view of the veil. There's something happening on the other side, and it might be just another piece of me.
And the deeper we go into that other side, this deeper piece of me is also a deeper piece of you. And the deeper we go, the more we share with all conscious beings. And that's what you were getting at with the Buddha. where he was experiencing every blade of grass. Well, he was deep into the mystery, where he was connected. He was vibrating with all of the vibration of the universe, and he was able to experience it and actually begin to define it in his own unique way. And that's where his teachings and the whole Buddhism unfolded. And that's true of most mystics who have experienced something on the other side of this veil, and then come back and then were able to unfold a certain amount of descriptive consciousness that they could share with the rest of us.
And I love that comment, to share a descriptive piece is, how do we talk about it? How do we share these very intimate, personal, individual experiences and cross-reference them in such a way that we're not alone? And on that note, Bob, final comments on the veil and reincarnation?
Well, let me just kind of repeat what I said earlier, that when we're on the other side of the veil, we see the interconnectedness of everything. And when we come back, after having experienced that, we're able to deal in a more compassionate, a more empathetic way with all of the beings we encounter on this side of the veil, because we know that we are connected to them, because we've experienced that interconnectivity. And that's why this oscillation is so important, that we keep going back, because every time we go back, we get another glimpse of a deeper truth.
Amen. And I think that is what we're trying to do, is keep revealing a deeper truth. How we do that? Well, math is one way, music's one way, poetry's one way, prose and stories are one way. I think what's going on, though, and part of what we've been doing here at the deep end since the very beginning, is we're just trying to get a context for whatever the hell is going on here, and to start pulling on threads and watch where they lead. And what we have found over and over, and Marianne and Bob and I talk about this all the time, every thread we pull on leads to the mystery. We uncover, by trying to describe what we're talking about, we uncover 5 things we can never describe. It's an amazing thing. We're now realizing that no matter which way we go, and fractal geometry shows this, there's no final resolution. The journey becomes deeper, the mystery becomes deeper. So next week our podcast is going to be on the mystery revealed. It's a new time. It's a time of a new mystery. Omnidirectional, omnipotent, and it has its claws on all of us. Or its paws, its warmth. God's peace, my friends. Until next time.